a gentleman who's a member of our community shared an allegation with a Crossroads staff member regarding Tome and an incident that had occurred almost 10 years prior.
A founding pastor of one of the 6 largest churches in America, a man who literally wrote the book on what it means to be a man of God, has just been suspended. And here's the part that nobody is talking about. He saw this coming. We're talking about Tome, the founding pastor of Crossroads Church in Cincinnati, Ohio. 34,000 people walk through those doors every single week. 6 locations across Ohio and Kentucky. Services broadcasting to thousands more. This is not a small operation. And as of February 27, 2025, Pastor Tome has been officially suspended from all responsibilities while an independent investigation plays out. Now, before you write this off as just another church scandal story, I need you to hear the full picture. Because the details here are genuinely layered. And one of them is going to hit differently than you expect. Tome co-founded Crossroads Church in 1995. Started with just 11 people in Cincinnati. Today, 34,000 weekly attendees. In just the last decade, attendance has grown by 12,000 people. That is explosive growth for any organization, religious or otherwise. Crossroads is non-denominational and evangelical, and it has built a very specific identity, bold, unapologetic, and especially focused on ministry to men. They host an annual event called Man Camp, billed as a chance to, quote, destroy your spiritual comfort zone, push beyond your limits, and find out what you're made of. Tome literally wrote a book called 5 Marks of a Man. It was recently republished with a workbook and devotional. This month, a TikTok video of Crossroads pastors doing a Super Bowl-themed preaching competition got over 800,000 views. This is a church that thrives in the cultural conversation. They are not hiding in a corner. And Tome has been the face of all of it. So when the suspension announcement dropped, the shockwaves were immediate. Now here's where it gets murky. And I want to be very clear about what we know and what we don't. The church sent an official statement to members on February 27th, providing more details.
In 2024, a gentleman who's a member of our community shared an allegation with a Crossroads staff member regarding Tome and an incident that had occurred almost 10 years prior. At that time, Brian kept a writing crop in his office that had been a gift. In November of 2015, the gentleman entered Brian's office, saw the writing crop, and asked, "What is that?" The allegation is that Brian picked up the writing crop, said, "Oh yeah, you like that?" and then whipped him in the crotch and then rubbed the man's crotch with the writing crop. When the staff member informed Brian of the allegation, Brian immediately and very appropriately directed the staff member to contact our board with the clear direction that we should look into it and he should recuse himself from the investigation. A member of our board did so, culminating with a joint meeting between the man, the board member, and Brian. After the meeting, the gentleman communicated that the meeting went very well. And then in a separate meeting, the board officially admonished Brian to be mindful of the weight of his words and his actions and the need to be above reproach. We then considered the issue resolved. Earlier this week, the same gentleman recently contacted us again about the same allegations and sharing frustration with what he feels is a lack of objectivity in the process. Although no new information has been provided at this point, after careful review, discussion, debate, and a lot of prayer, we decided that the best thing to do for this member, for Brian, and for all of us as a church family is to commission an independent investigation to review the situation and interview all the involved parties. I would note that an investigation does not indicate guilt. It's simply an organized search for the truth. Based on Crossroads protocol, in a situation that reaches this stage, the staff member, in this case Brian, is suspended from all church responsibilities until the investigation is concluded. Our prayer is that it can be done quickly, but our commitment is that it will be done right. We'll provide updates for you as we're able.
So let's unpack what was just said, and more importantly, what wasn't. The allegations involve inappropriate physical humor during a video shoot in late 2015. That's nearly a decade ago. The church was made aware of this in 2024. An internal investigation was conducted, separate from Tome and the church staff. There was a conversation. The community member said the meeting went very well. The board formally admonished Tome, considered the matter resolved, and moved on. And then, something changed. The church says no new information about the incident has been provided, but the same community member came back. And this time, the board decided that an internal review wasn't enough. So the question everyone is asking is, why now? Why again? The answer to that requires us to rewind just a few weeks. In January 2025, a Crossroads staff member was fired after police informed the church that he had allegedly been secretly filming women at a local gym. Brian Tome responded publicly and forcefully. He called the behavior a gross violation of biblical standards. He said the man had been removed from staff immediately, and he made a broader public statement about the expectations Crossroads holds its leaders to. That statement, Tome's own very public call for accountability, appears to have been the trigger. Shortly after, the community member who had previously raised the 2015 incident came forward again. Think about the weight of that moment. Tome stands at a metaphorical pulpit and says, "We hold our people to the highest standard." And someone in the congregation hears that and thinks, then why does what happened to me still feel unresolved? That is not a story about hypocrisy. That is a story about the gap between institutional closure and personal healing. And that gap? It can last a very long time. Now I want to take a moment here, because this is the part of the story I think deserves the most careful attention. Brian Tome recently wrote on the Crossroads blog about church discipline, about why accountability matters, about why going public with sin is actually good for the church body. He wrote, "Nothing would be lost in telling people the truth and not leaving room for rumors and false assumptions." He also wrote, and this one is striking, "People may ask in an accusatory way, how would you like it if your sin was made known to the whole church?" I wouldn't. I fear that. It's part of what motivates me to not do, insert heinous sin here. He said he fears public exposure, and now he is at the center of a very public investigation. I'm not saying that to pile on the man. I'm saying it because it reveals something deeply human about this story. This is a pastor who believes in accountability, who has written about it, preached about it, and built an entire church culture around it. And yet the system he operates within is now being tested in a very personal way. The congregation is split. Supporters flooded social media over the weekend. They called Tome authentic, raw, and genuine. Some pointed out that if the incident is from 2015, how serious can it really be? But notice what the church's own statement acknowledged. No new information has emerged. The board still moved forward with an independent investigation and a suspension. That tells you something. The board isn't doing this because the facts changed. They're doing this because they recognize that the community members' continued concern means something, even without new details. That is actually a mature institutional response. Whether it's sufficient is a different question. This story is still unfolding. The investigation has no end date. And I'll be watching, because whatever comes next will say a great deal about whether a church this size can practice what it preaches when the person on the hot seat isn't someone else. So, I want to hear from you. Do you think the board made the right call suspending Tome before the investigation concluded? And does the lack of new information make this feel like an overreaction or an appropriate precaution? And what does a genuinely healthy accountability process look like inside a church this large? Drop it all in the comments. This conversation is worth having. If this breakdown was useful to you, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people. Subscribe if you're new, because we dig into stories exactly like this. Faith, leadership, and the complicated. Very human space where the two meet. I'll see you in the next one. Crossroads Church has recently become aware of a statement made by a member of our community regarding alleged inappropriate physical humor by senior pastor Brian Tome during a video shoot in late 2015. Crossroads was previously made aware of these claims in 2024. or at that time, the Crossroads Spiritual Board conducted an investigation independent of Pastor Tome and any other Crossroads staff members to determine validity and next steps. Following additional discussion of the alleged incident with the board, including a conversation with Pastor Tome while a board member was present, the involved community member communicated to Crossroads that the meeting went very well. At that time, the board reminded Pastor Tome of the weight of his words and actions and formally admonished Pastor Tome to be mindful to be above reproach. The board then considered the issue resolved. The same community member recently contacted Crossroads again about the same allegations. The board takes these matters seriously and has carefully reviewed the situation again. Although no new information about the alleged incident has been provided, our Crossroads is hiring an independent investigator to review the situation and to interview all parties to the alleged incident. The Crossroads Spiritual Board has officially suspended Pastor Tome from all Crossroads responsibilities until the investigation is completed. We're committed to however long the investigation will take and will provide updates as we know more. We pray for truth, reconciliation, and unity for each of us, our community, and our world, and ask for you to pray along with us as we walk through this process. The Crossroads Spiritual Board.